But that is democracy. It's not the perfect thing that it is touted to be. We find that some of these democracies really cannot work. People cannot make up their mind. They have hung parliaments. This has happened today with Britain, and of course Australia followed suit. And they do not have a government that has a majority. They have to cooperate with some small parties in order to obtain the majority. And of course the small parties, knowing that if it pulls out, the government will fall, will make lots of demands. And the demands that small parties make is not really good for the majority. It's good for the small party, but not good for the majority. And so you can see governments of democracies which are very, very weak. Democracies should actually be reflective of the thinking of the majority of the people. But when the majority of the people cannot decide, then of course you are not going to have a good government. But to force governments to become democratic, I think is not right, especially when it involves going to war and killing people in order to make it democratic. Now, as you know, a war has been waged against Afghanistan and Iraq because they were not democratic. Of course, Iraq was supposed to have weapons of mass destruction, but since the weapons were not found, they decided that it was because they wanted to make it democratic. But why Iraq? I think China is not democratic. Why not go to war against China? So the great democrats of the world are not that keen when it means that they might have to suffer too much. Bullying a small country, of course, is the right way to do things. That's the reality of the situation. That is a reflection of the idea that actually most democratic people think that might is right. Today, the world is not democratic. Some countries are democratic within the countries, but when it comes to the rest of the world, they are not very democratic. We have United Nations with 190 over members, but these 190 over members are not allowed to make decisions which are opposed by just one country with these permanent members of the Security Council. So where is the democracy that you preach so much, that you want to go to war and kill people, when you yourself have become very undemocratic in a group where basically democracy should be functioning. So all this, I think a lot of hypocrisy is what constitutes the new political reality. And more of hypocrisy will be seen in the politics of the world. Of course, in the politics of nations also there will be a lot of hypocrisy, but compared to the hypocrisy of international politics, it is really nothing. So today there is a lot of question being asked about the Washington Consensus. The Washington Consensus is, of course, all about freedom and liberty and equality and democracy, etc. The new consensus is called the Beijing Consensus. And I think it is worth studying. Because here is a country with 1.3 billion, 1.4 billion people, very poor, but by applying the Beijing consensus correctly, they have suddenly become the second most powerful country in the world, richest country in the world, with 2.3 billion, 2.3 trillion dollars of reserve. Well, of course, the dollars are depreciating, so the 2.3 trillion in renminbi terms have become much less. That is what happens when currencies depreciate. But the Beijing consensus shows that having a non-democratic country can also give a good life for the people. But once in a while, they may have to shoot corrupt people. In Malaysia, we hang people who distribute drugs. We don't shoot because people do not know who is going to be the killer. So, the death penalty in Beijing, of course, is totally undemocratic, except in the views of Malaysia. So the Beijing consensus is not a bad system. It is an authoritarian kind of government, but although it is authoritarian, they do change their leaders quite peacefully. Since the introduction of this new consensus in China by Deng Xiaoping, they have changed many leaders now, and they don't go to war in order to change leaders. So changing leaders is quite possible even in authoritarian government. Of course, there is another country, not as big as China perhaps, where the leaders do change. But the party doesn't change, like in Malaysia. Leaders do change, but these small countries runs the country. So we have dynasties also in this authoritarian form of government, a la the Beijing consensus. So today the reality in the political world is that there is a contest between the Washington consensus and the Beijing consensus. And I think in the long run, the Beijing consensus might win. Because then we will lose our voice. We will not be able to vote perhaps. But if you find good people to run the country, if dictators can make a country develop and develop very well, there is no democracy in China, not the kind of democracy that we believe in. But if you look at the progress of China and its people, you will see that the system of government that they have can actually bring a lot of benefits to the people. Whereas we see a lot of democracies where leaders change every 2 years and the country cannot make any progress at all. Even the countries which have made progress find sometimes that democracies hinder the development of the country, make the country unstable and difficult to develop. This is the political reality that we are faced with today. We are faced with these things because there is really no consensus on anything that happens in this world. We receive a new idea coming from outside sources, they interpret it, and we have to implement it. That is also a reality. Same applies to globalization, to the media, and also to the politics of the world. Somebody conceives of an idea and promotes it, and we all have to accept it and not question it. And if we don't, then the media, their media, will, controlled by someone, of course, will run us down. Malaysia, of course, is said to be ruled by a dictator for 22 years. I enjoyed it. But at least I think he has made some progress. This building was not there. So we need to tell ourselves that whenever there is a new idea, a new theology, a new concept, let's sit down, all of us, rich and poor countries, sit down and discuss the interpretation of that idea, so that the idea will benefit not just the originator of the idea, the rich countries, the powerful countries, but also the poor countries. That again is another political reality that we have to face with. That we, as citizens of this world, should have equal right to discuss new concepts, new ideas, new interpretations of things together as the equal citizens of this world. Until that is done, there really is no global citizen. Of course, lots of people say they are, but I don't think so. I disagree with them, as I disagree with many things. And also we need to talk about media liberalization, and we need to talk about the political realities together. Not have this thing interpreted by one group of very rich, very powerful people and foisted on the rest of the world. I thank you.